With the looming threat of U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs, a Buy Canadian movement has picked up across the country. You may have noticed it when you go into grocery stores or supply shops, a tag that tells you if the product you're about to pick up is made in Canada.
Something's brewing north of the border, and it's not just coffee. By mid-2025, Canada's quietly pulling the plug on American brands, and it's costing the U.S. big-time $2 billion and counting, not from sanctions or trade deals, but because Canadians are simply done showing up. According to polls, nearly 60% of Canadians are dodging American products. No protests or hashtags needed. They're just swapping out U.S. goods for local ones at the grocery store, in clothing shops, and even online. It's a silent rebellion that's hitting American wallets hard. Cross-border car traffic's down 23%, and tourism by plane or road has tanked. The U.S. Travel Association is sounding alarms, warning that even a 10% drop in Canadian visitors could wipe out $2.1 billion and over 14,000 jobs. And yet, the White House brushes it off, chuckling as Canada closes its wallet on brands like McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Amazon, and Nike. This isn't just a boycott, it's a collapse of trust. When your closest neighbor turns away, you've got to wonder, stay with us, because what started as a trade spat is redrawing the North American consumer map. This quiet revolt is doing real damage. Canadians aren't storming the streets or waving signs. They're making a statement with every purchase. Every receipt is a vote against American brands. Surveys show 85% of Canadians have either switched to local alternatives or plan to, and it's not just symbolic. In March 2025, Ontario's Liquor Board and other provincial regulators yanked American spirits off their shelves. Between early March and late April, sales of U.S. liquor in Canada plummeted 66.3%, with overall liquor sales dipping 12.8%. The fallout's hitting U.S. border towns, hard empty car lanes, half-full hotels, and flights that used to carry thousands of Canadians weekly now grounded. This didn't come out of nowhere. On February 1st, 2025, President Trump slapped 25% tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, escalating by April to include cars and consumer goods. Canada's government, led by Prime Minister Mark Carney, hit back with counter-tariffs and export bans on select U.S. products. That sparked a consumer backlash, not with loud protests, but with canceled trips, ditched Amazon accounts, and apps that flag U.S.-made goods for shoppers to avoid. Brands like McDonald's, Amazon, and Tesla, once untouchable in Canada, are now optional. Trust is gone. And this quiet rebellion is raising big questions about the long-term damage to U.S. influence, currency strength, and global market clout. What began as a trade dispute is turning into an economic earthquake. The tourism hit is brutal. Canadians are skipping U.S. vacations, opting for homegrown destinations or trips to Mexico and Europe. U.S. border towns are feeling the pinch. Hotels are quieter, restaurants emptier, and local businesses are struggling. Industry reports confirm. Summer 2025 flight bookings from Canada to the U.S. dropped over 70% compared to the previous year. The U.S. Travel Association warns this could ripple through the economy, threatening billions in revenue and thousands of jobs. When Trump targeted Canada's key exports, it wasn't just a trade move, it shattered the economic trust between neighbors. Canada's response was swift: counter-tariffs, import bans, and even pulling U.S. liquor from stores. That sent a signal, and Canadian consumers ran with it. They're avoiding U.S. destinations like Las Vegas and New York, where bookings and foot traffic have nosedived. Upstate New York and other regional hotspots are hurting, with businesses reporting billions in lost revenue. This isn't a blip. It's a consumer uprising triggered by trade policy. When routine border road trips vanish, the impact spreads to restaurants, tour operators, and attractions missing Canadian dollars. If Canada, America's closest ally, can hit pause on travel, what's that say to the rest of the world? The quiet boycott is real, expensive, and reshaping U.S.-Canada relations right now. The supply chain fallout is just as stark. In March 2025, Reuters reported that Canadian provinces pulled U.S. spirits from liquor shelves as a direct jab at Trump's tariffs. From Toronto shops to Vancouver bars, Canadians stopped grabbing American labels. Brown-Forman's CEO called it worse than a tariff, and he's not wrong. Delisting products wipes out billions in export volume overnight. the ripple effect hit fast. McDonald's Canada posted one of its worst quarters since 2020, with global comparable sales slipping 3.6%, blamed on tariff uncertainty tanking consumer confidence. Canadian franchises cut orders for Idaho potatoes, and U.S. Midwest suppliers and a Missouri packaging plant started canceling shifts. This isn't protest theater, it's cash registers going quiet. Store managers report steady foot traffic, but sharp drops in U.S. brand purchases. Social media's buzzing with apps like Buy Canadian, helping shoppers skip American goods. When tariffs hit in January 2025, 25% on steel, aluminum, and autos, Canada fired back with counter tariffs and delistings. Consumers joined in, silently shifting away from McDonald's, Amazon, and Tesla at checkout lines. Fewer pallets are moving, fewer trucks are rolling, and fewer shifts are scheduled. If U.S. whiskey vanishes from Ontario shelves and fries disappear from Canadian McDonald's, the stakes climb. This isn't just nationalism, it's a supply chain meltdown with real economic consequences, challenging the systems that made American brands untouchable. The cracks are widening. In late January 2025, Amazon announced it was closing all 7 of its Quebec warehouses, cutting 1,700 full-time jobs and 250 seasonal ones. Union wins played a role, but the move gutted Amazon's delivery promises, with Prime delays doubling across the province. By mid-February, 41% of Canadians said they'd cut back or ditch Amazon entirely, and 78% committed to buying Canadian goods overall. That's not just a hit to Amazon's bottom line, it's forcing brands to rethink their strategies. Tesla's feeling it too. A spring 2025 poll showed 71% of Canadians back a moratorium on Tesla sales, with Quebec and Ontario seeing a surge in Cybertruck order cancellations as trade tensions fueled anti-US sentiment. Even Heinz ketchup, once a staple on every Canadian table, is losing ground to local brands like French's. Retailers are stocking homegrown options after Heinz shuttered an Ontario plant. This all ties back to Canada's counter tariffs and targeted export bans. Consumers didn't need protest signs, they used their wallets. American brands are losing shelf space, distribution centers are closing, and workers from Missouri to Quebec are seeing shifts vanish. Canadian shoppers are ditching U.S. platforms, products, and vehicles, putting supply chains under serious strain. What started as a trade spat is now a full-on meltdown, redefining the rules of North American commerce. American icons are stumbling on Canadian soil. In March 2025, Reuters noted that Canadian retailers paused restocking U.S. beverages and citrus, canceling truckloads of oranges and sodas as anti-American sentiment grew. Even Oreos took a hit. Canadians spotted "Made in Mexico" labels and felt betrayed, with local media amplifying the outrage. The streaming wars aren't helping. Netflix's account-sharing crackdown, which started in 2023, fueled anger, with over half of Ontario households planning to cancel by early 2025. Disney Plus and X's similar moves only poured gas on the fire, with cancellation chatter spiking on Canadian forums. Nike's in trouble too. Youth groups in Quebec and Ontario campaigned against the brand, citing unethical labor practices abroad. Social posts show young Canadians picking pricier local apparel over Nike, a grassroots shift gaining steam. What began as a political jab turned personal. For Canadians, the shopping cart's now a statement, and trade policies become consumer resistance. U.S. brands are losing shelf space, subscribers, and moral ground. When Canadians choose French's over Heinz or Hive over Netflix, it's not just a sale lost, it's retailers rethinking sourcing, brands losing partnerships, and platforms losing subscribers. This isn't just a boycott, it's a confidence crisis for American cultural and consumer power. The erosion is real. U.S. brands, once unassailable, are discovering that loyalty can vanish fast. If Oreo and Netflix can't weather this Canadian backlash, no one's safe. Canadians didn't burn flags or stage loud protests, they just decided at the checkout, and that's what stings most. McDonald's, Tesla, Amazon, Oreo, Heinz. These aren't just logos, they're the backbone of American brand dominance, and that backbone's cracking. Not because the products changed, but because trust did. A soda's not just a drink anymore, it's a choice between loyalty and defiance. A pair of sneakers says more about values than style. A canceled streaming subscription isn't just about saving money, it's about taking a stand. What's chilling is that this isn't coming from a rival like China or Russia. It's from Canada, America's closest ally. If they can walk away without a second thought, who's next? Is this just a reaction to tariffs, or the start of a global shift where American brands lose their grip? Tariffs lit the spark, but consumer behavior is the wildfire, and it's spreading beyond the border. Can US companies win back the trust they've lost, or is the era of brand dominance fading? What do you think? Is this a one-off flare-up, or the first sign of a bigger global reset? Drop your thoughts below, because this story's far from over.